Many of our city centre buildings have a varied past. They've had numerous tenants and owners, different uses. Some of them have been remodelled and refurbished, others completely demolished. Well, the Royal Arcade, situated between Gentleman's Walk and Castle Street, is no exception. Indeed, in the 15th century, this was the site of the Angel Inn. In 1840, it became the Royal Hotel and took on new respectability. This impressive entrance was built in 1846 with the arch sufficiently wide enough for horse and carriage to pass through, and for almost 60 years it was a well-known city landmark. The forerunners of today's shopping malls were the Victorian arcades, covered avenues of shops in the centre of towns. And here in Norwich we have one of the finest, designed by local architect George Skipper and opened in 1899. The 247-foot long avenue follows the shape of the yard of the old inn that it replaced, and originally contained 24 shops with these magnificent bow-fronted windows, as well as a pub and a clubroom. When built, there was only natural light in the arcade itself. In the 1950s, fluorescent lighting was added, and fortunately replaced in the 1980s restoration with the wrought iron and glass lamps we see today. These delightful tiles with the designs of peacocks, flowers and fruit were made by Dalton and contrast well with the rich timber of the shop fronts.
Langley's is one of the original, or the original tenant of the Royal Arcade. Langley's itself began before the Royal Arcade began. We started in 1883 and the Royal Arcade opened in 1899. I think the arcade as a shopping venue has just become better and better. Norwich has become better and better, and the Royal Arcade has reflected the improvements that Norwich has seen. The Royal Arcade itself has changed not just in the shops which are here, with us being just about the only tenant I think who was here when I started. In the mid-80s, the arcade was practically rebuilt. Everything we see, although it looks original, most of it is actually rebuilt. But it is a beautiful, beautiful building to be in, and I think it's a jewel in the crown of Norwich.
Our city centre is often described as a retail destination. Undoubtedly, the Royal Arcade is an iconic building and perhaps best represents how Norwich would like to see itself as a shopping centre.